Welcome to Diamonds and Dumpster Fires, the show where we talk about finding strength when life falls apart. I'm your host, Melie, and around here, resilience isn't perfection. It's falling flat, getting back up, and maybe laughing about it later. From breakups to breakthroughs, we mix faith, neuroscience, and a little sass to help you rebuild a life that actually feels like yours. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of Diamonds and Dumpster Fires. I'm so glad you're here today because today we are going to dive into something that has honestly been foundational for me, not just as a resilience strategist and a student of neuroscience, but as someone who has quite honestly had to claw their way out of burnout, heartbreak, and a whole lot of other mental spirals. I call it my GEM framework, and no, this is not the kind of gem you wear on your finger or glue to a craft project. This GEM stands for G, ground in truth, E, elevate your thoughts, M, move forward. This simple framework blends what I've learned through studying neuroscience and what I've clung to through my faith. It's designed to help you shift your mindset when life feels like, well, a dumpster fire. This framework honestly has been foundational. It's simple, but it's not easy in that it takes a lot of focus to retrain your brain. The good news is, though, you can absolutely do it. And I know this is true because if I can, the queen of crashing out when it comes to getting a less than positive text or being randomly unmatched in the dating apps, then I know it can work for you too. I can honestly tell you I am not the same woman I was 4 years ago. Heck, I'm not even the same woman I was 6 months ago. I am putting in the reps on my own resilience journey, and I'm here to help you do the same. So if you are ready to dive into this with me, let's get started. Part 1 we're going to talk about is the G in GEM, ground in truth. Your brain is wired for survival, not for clarity. It wants to predict danger before it happens. So when it senses anything unfamiliar or emotionally risky, it will throw up red flags. And these red flags are what is commonly known as ANTs, which stands for automatic negative thoughts. And yes, those ants are just as pesky as the little bugs that try to ruin your summer picnics. The problem with negative thoughts, other than just the fact that they're negative, is that the more that you think those negative thoughts, the more your brain actually believes them. You reinforce that pattern through your neural pathways, and it only gets stronger with repetition. But as we know, Romans 12:2 tells us to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That means your mind isn't just something you endure, it's something you steward. And that starts with truth. So how do we start working with our brains to ground ourselves in truth? First, you can start by admitting that not every thought deserves your belief. And if you're like, wait a minute, I'm thinking it, shouldn't it be true? Just think about what you think about on a daily basis, right? Of course not. You have to pause and ask yourself, is this 100% true? And the spoiler alert on this is that it usually isn't, especially when it comes to things like negative thoughts. So, for example, in my own life, I have had to work really hard to focus on this, what is true. I am a bit higher in neuroticism and I tend toward catastrophizing. Even back when I was married, I would assume the worst a lot of times when I shouldn't have. And I assumed the best when I should have been more vigilant, but that's a story for another time. But the reality is, it took me a long time to come to a realization that not everything I think is true. Let me ask you this. Is there anything that you ruminate on? Anything that you tell yourself that you might be a little bit embarrassed if others heard? Whether you are someone who tends to catastrophize life, or even if you tend to see the positive in most situations, the techniques we're going to talk about here today are crucial. So here is how "is this 100% true" works. Let's say you get a thought, everyone hates me. And yes, this is a super dramatic example, but please just stay with me. So your brain lies to you, and you will see that we can prove it's a lie. It will say something awful, and if you are like most people, you will let this thought ruminate in your head. But instead of doing that, when you practice this "is it 100% true" method, you actually are going to call it out. You are going to ask yourself, is this 100% true? And you'll come to the answer that no, of course not. Everyone can't hate you. Everyone doesn't even know you, right? Okay, so hope you're still with me. Once you start investigating this thought, you will move yourself into what is commonly known as the System 2 mode of our brain. This is where your prefrontal cortex comes online and you start being logical. You will start thinking of people who don't hate you. You'll start remembering times where people even said that they love you, and you'll be well on your way to creating a better mindset. Let's look at another thought. If your brain is telling you, I fail at everything, is that 100% true? Can you point to something you didn't fail at? Anything? And right now, if you are thinking this thought or this is something that you do believe and you're swirling around in rumination and you can't seem to come up with an area where this is not true, let me ask you, can you walk? Can you talk? Can you read? These are things you didn't fail at. And if you didn't fail at these big things, it's safe to say you don't fail at everything else, because these are not nothing, right? And if you don't fail at everything, that means you'll have more successes in the future. And if you can't believe that outright right now, can you at least say it's possible that based on your track record of learning hard things, that you won't fail at everything that comes your way in the future? So, how can you reframe less dramatic thoughts? Maybe you're not sitting there thinking everybody hates me or I'll never accomplish anything, but maybe you feel like someone doesn't like you because they sent a thumbs up emoji to your heartfelt text. I mean, please tell me I'm not the only one who's had that thought. But okay, let's just say somebody sent you a thumbs up and your immediate thought is they're annoyed, right? They didn't match my energy. Maybe they don't care. Did I say too much? Should I never text them again? And now you're all panicked. Let's look at the actual evidence. The evidence is they sent a thumbs up emoji. That's literally all you know for sure. They didn't send that emoji and also say, please never text me again, or wow, you are too much. Who knows why they sent it? Maybe they were in the middle of something and they just wanted to acknowledge your message quickly. Maybe they didn't really know what else to say, but they still wanted to respond. Are there other possible explanations? I mean, maybe they're just a thumbs up person. Some people are emotionally expressive, others seem to text like they're signing a legal contract. Who knows? Maybe they read the text at a red light or in a meeting or while they were juggling a toddler. Maybe they assumed you'd interpret that thumbs up as, got it, appreciate it. So you got to reframe the thought that they're mad at you. Instead of, they're mad at me and I should move to the woods and just live off the land, why don't you try thinking, a thumbs up is neutral, not negative. I don't actually know what's going on in their life right now, so I'm not going to assume the worst. This doesn't mean they don't appreciate me. It just means they responded differently than I would have. Your brain's first reaction to something is often a dramatic interpretation, not a fact. So using the is it 100% true question can help you stop the spiral, take a step back, and give yourself a more rational and less emotionally draining perspective. And hey, if that thumbs up emoji still really bothers you, you can always just ask, hey, I wasn't sure how to take that. Are we good? Most of the time you'll find out you worried for nothing. Ask me how I know. Another way you can ground yourself in truth is gratitude journaling. And yes, we talk about this a lot here on the podcast, but it really matters because it helps you shift your lens from lack to abundance. It brings to mind all the things that you have that are good, and this is a direct attack on those negative thoughts. So just if you haven't started this practice yet, I encourage you to try it. I'd love for you to try it for 30 days, but try it even just for a week and see how you feel. It's very simple. Just write down 3 to 5 things you're grateful for in a notebook or a journal. Start to ground yourself in the good that you have, even in the moments when it's hard to see. Gratitude rewires your brain. Let's talk about another technique that we have, if you want to call it that, for grounding in truth, and that is prayer. So think about this. Not only do we get to speak to the creator of the universe when we pray, but we have a way to shift our nervous systems into stillness. When we find ourselves caught up, in a doom scroll on social media, or when we're crashing out in a negative spiral, our amygdala is running the show. But turning to prayer and stillness can calm your nervous system in addition to giving you a voice with the God who created you. I mean, that's amazing, right? So now that we're grounded in what's true, we're going to move to the E in the GEM framework, elevate our thoughts. Because it's not enough just to combat those negative thoughts. We want to rewire our brains to think more positively, and no, not in a toxic way. As I said, E stands for elevate your thoughts, and we're going to dive into the filter we all have in our brains that will help us look for more good. So your reticular activating system, I know I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but just a little refresher. It's the filter in your brain that decides what you notice. If you focus on failure, it's going to highlight every flaw. If you focus on truth and purpose, it will find what's working. And this is powerful because your focus literally determines what your brain thinks is important. Think of it like this. Your brain, in a lot of ways, is kind of like a search engine. So whatever you type into it, it's going to serve it up to you. This isn't a good or a bad thing. It's not going to make judgment calls. For example, if you type in worst case scenarios, it's going to send them to you. It'll send them to you all day. It'll send them to you while you're driving. It'll send them to you while you're trying to sleep. And this is exactly where negative ruminations come from. However, Philippians 4:8 tells us to fix our thoughts on what is true, noble, right, pure, and lovely. That is not just feel-good advice. It is actually a blueprint for emotional resilience. But how do you switch your focus, especially if you've been stuck in a negative thought pattern for a long time? The fix is your attention. So your attention is a superpower. What you focus on is going to magnify. If you choose to look for what's going right, even if it's just one small thing, you are going to start rewiring your brain to look for those good things. So what is one simple way that you can start doing this? I like to call it the future self exercise, and it sounds a little bit fancy, but really it's just a way of kind of training your brain to visualize success and resilience before you get there. And before you start worrying that I'm going all weird and woo-woo on you, let me remind you that athletes actually do this all the time. They do these visualization exercises where they picture themselves winning the game or the tournament. They focus on seeing themselves crossing the finish line, and it actually improves their performance. And if you don't believe me, you can look up studies about this. It is true. So why not leverage a tried and true practice the pros know to bring more good into your life? So here is a simple exercise that you can do at any time to start practicing this. You are going to write a letter to yourself from your future self 1 year from now, or whenever you decide to write the letter. You're not going to write it from your current perspective, but you're going to write it from the version of you who has already overcome the challenges that you're facing right now. The version of you that made it through. And if you're like, well, what about if I don't make it through? No. This is where the visualization comes through. You are the person who made it through. You persevered. You were successful. And that is who is writing the letter. This version of you is stronger, healthier, wiser, and filled with peace. And what you're going to do from that perspective is just first dream, picture yourself in the future. What does your life look like? What's different? What have you learned? How have you grown? And you're going to write yourself a letter, and it's going to be, Dear Your Name. You made it. There were moments this past year when you felt like you wouldn't, but look at you now. You're stronger than you ever imagined you could be. You handled things with so much more grace than you ever gave yourself credit for. I know you worried about insert whatever's going on in your mind, but guess what? It didn't break you. It shaped you. And now you have the peace and confidence you never thought was possible. Keep going. Trust God. The best is still ahead. And of course, you don't have to write that word for word. Write it in your own words. Insert your current struggles in there. But I'm telling you, as somebody who was very skeptical about this type of exercise before, it really does work. And if you want to know a little bit more why it works, it's first of all neuroplasticity at work. Your brain is starting to create neural pathways for the future you want instead of reinforcing past fears. It's that reticular activating system coming into play. So when you visualize success, your brain starts filtering for opportunities that align with it. And looking at it from a faith-based angle, this aligns beautifully with walking by faith, not by sight, 2 Corinthians 5:7. So when you write this letter, you are stepping into hope and trust instead of fear. Now, another way to elevate your mindset is through affirmations and self-talk. And I'm not saying if you are somebody who grew up watching Saturday Night Live and you saw the Stuart Smalley affirmations, you might kind of have sort of a little about doing those. Trust me, I get it. But Can you honestly not say that saying I'm a work in progress beats I'm a disaster? This stuff is really true. Okay, so I'm telling you as somebody who also was skeptical about this. I was skeptical about anything that involved me kind of giving up my negative self patterns. Why? Because I was wired that way. I had built those neural pathways that were wired for negativity for years and years. And so shifting that was a little bit difficult for me. However, I can tell you that saying nice things to yourself and self-talk is science-backed, okay? This is true stuff. So looking at it from a faith-based perspective, something that you can do is instead of asking questions like, why is this happening to me? You can ask questions like, how is this growing me? And it is a slight change, and yet that affirmation, that positive way of looking at it will change everything. Ask, where is God showing up in this? And I want to be super clear here. I am not at all saying that you have to become sort of Pollyanna and gloss over true hurt or, issues that are serious. This is not toxic positivity. You know me, I have been through a divorce. I have been through a layoff, and these were not great moments in my life. And I did not sit there and think, ooh, what is so great about this? I'll be honest, I, during those times, was saying, why is this happening to me? But when I did shift the question to how is this growing me? What can I do in this? Where is God showing up in this? It actually helped me focus on hope and future and see God's provision in all the ways that He was helping me. And it gave me a new sense of calm and clarity. Okay, so we have now grounded ourselves in truth and we've elevated our thinking. So now it's time to move to the final part of the GEM framework, which is M, move forward. Let's talk about what it actually means to move forward. Not hustle, not panic action taking, but forward movement that is rooted in purpose. So this is where your prefrontal cortex is going to come into play. That is the part of your brain that's responsible for decision-making, planning, and intentional behavior. Some people say it's basically your brain's CEO, and it works best when you give it clear direction. When you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, it often is because this part of your brain is competing with your emotional brain, that lovely amygdala, which is screaming for comfort or certainty. But the good news is that taking action can actually calm your chaos. You don't have to have the whole plan figured out. You just need one intentional next step. James 2:7 tells us faith without works is dead. In other words, faith isn't just what you believe, it's what you do because of what you believe. And I'm not getting into the theology here on this of what that actually means for our salvation, so please don't read into that. But sometimes trusting God means moving our feet even when we're not sure where the road leads. And if you are someone who is sitting there thinking, you know what, I just don't feel motivated to take action, let me help you shift your mind there because you actually don't need motivation to take action. You need movement to create momentum. So one tiny step is all it takes to start changing your brain and shifting your life. So here's some practical tools for this. You can ask yourself, what matters most right now? And just take one small step toward that. That one thing might be sending an email. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water, applying for one job or making one change on your resume, going for a walk, deciding to sign up for a dating app or deciding to delete a dating app. All of these are powerful. Another thing you can do is habit tracking. Progress is going to build when you notice it, so track small wins to show your brain what matters most. And then take intentional rest. Purpose is not all push. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is pause, take a break. Rest restores clarity and keeps your actions sustainable. There was a time, I know I've mentioned it before, where I went through a layoff, and that was a very scary time for me because I had no idea what I was going to do. At the time, I was working in a field where jobs were becoming a bit more scarce with my particular job title, and it felt really, really scary. So in those moments, it can be easy to just be overwhelmed, completely flooded with you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, you should do that, and then not taking any action. But instead, after the night that everything had happened, I went to bed that night, woke up the next day, and I chose one small action. I was like, okay, I haven't updated my resume in a while, and that feels huge. But what I'm going to do is I am going to go in with my most recent position and just make updates to that. So, that might not have been world-changing at the time, but looking back, it was a spark that helped me move forward. After that, obviously, I continued. I ended up getting a new job, but it's just a matter of taking that movement. It can feel scary, especially the first move forward when we feel stuck. But just take one small action. Maybe for you, it is just writing an email to someone, texting someone back. Like I said earlier, maybe it's just like treating your body better and just drinking water. Whatever it is, come up with one small step forward that you can take. So if your thoughts are racing or your plans feel fuzzy, or maybe you're stuck in a someday I'll take action loop, try this. Name one thing that matters to you right now, then do one small thing to honor it. That's movement, that's purpose, and that is momentum in disguise. Remember, you're not behind, you're not late, you are becoming. And every step you take with intention trains your brain to trust that progress is possible. Okay, so let's bring this all together. We have just walked through the GEM framework. Ground in truth, elevate your thoughts, move forward. These 3 simple steps are backed by neuroscience, rooted in scripture, and ready to meet you right where you are. So here's what I hope you're taking away with you today. Number 1, you are not broken. You are being rewired. You don't have to believe every thought that shows up in your mind, and when it feels hard to move forward, even the tiniest little step still counts. God designed your brain with the capacity to heal, rewire, and grow. GEM isn't just a framework, it's a reminder that you have what you need to begin again, starting now. So here is your invitation. This week, choose one of the tools we talked about in the GEM framework and actually use it. Maybe you could use the Ask, Is This 100% True tool. Or maybe you'll choose to visualize your future self and write a letter. Or you'll name one micro goal and take a tiny but mighty step forward. And if you would like a little reminder on what was involved in the GEM framework, I have a tool for you. So please go to diamondsindumpsterfires.com/GEM and you can download the GEM framework. Also click the show notes below and there'll be a link directly to that. If this episode helped you, could you please share it with someone who could use a little brain glow up of their own? And remember, you are capable, you are being transformed, and you are absolutely not doing this alone. Your mess does not disqualify you, it just makes your sparkle more believable. Until next time, friends, be well. If this episode hit home, you are going to love my GEM framework. It's my go-to guide for getting grounded, elevating your mindset, and moving forward with purpose. You can download it for free at diamondsindumpsterfires.com/GEM. That's GEM. And start turning your dumpster fires into something that sparkles.